If Sonam Hoani has helped you, please consider supporting for the benefit of others. Establishing a base engagement is the biggest hurdle for new ideas.
Can you make a video about you? Hi, my name is Sonam Hoani, and I think I first got interested in meditation and mindfulness very spontaneously. My life was very tumultuous before I started getting interested in spirituality, and one day, after some emotional roller coasters, I started thinking, and I had this intellectual insight where I realized I wasn't sure about what I actually knew, or it sort of just suddenly became apparent to me that every idea I had about the world was in some way just made up. It was this conceptual labeling over top of everything that just was. I'd been telling myself a story my whole life. And upon thinking about that and thinking about what it would mean to not live as though everything I'd thought, all these stories I'd made up about the world weren't true, I experienced a very significant change in how it had always felt like to be me. Suddenly I felt a lot freer. I felt very peaceful, calm. I felt very lovely at the time. It felt very undefinable, but it didn't feel like a bad thing. It felt like a revolutionary, transformational thing. And upon having that experience, I became very confused why throughout my whole life I'd learned about, all the ideas society had for me. I'd learned about getting a career and finding a partner, perhaps having children, how to be successful. I'd learned and heard so much about directing my life about those ideas that I was astonished that I had never been introduced to whatever I was experiencing at that shift in being for me. And that was really when I started getting interested in meditation. I started reading a whole lot of books, trying to figure out where my experience sat in the world. Why hadn't I heard anything about it? And did other people know what was going on? How could this most significant discovery be how could that be my new way of being in the world? That's what I really wanted to know. At the time of having that insight, it also became very clear to me, just instinctually, one moment after the insight, that the only way I could continue to justify being here on earth would be by selflessly investing my time, or attempting to move towards selflessly investing my time in the benefit for other people. I mean, now I can conceptualize it in different ways, using philosophies and ethics. But I want to live in a world where no one has to suffer. As I implied, I know something of ways I didn't like being. And the idea that out there in the world today, there are people suffering, I feel immense compassion for that, and it does break my heart. And I think we should have the space in our lives to move towards what we want to move towards. But I hope that the way that we're going is also compatible with being very well informed about how our behavior impacts this connected web of everyone else, and that we can move towards whatever our hopes and dreams are, but also do that in accordance with helping and serving other people. Because in the times where I've been suffering, it would have been very hard to understand others who weren't suffering, moving throughout the world, being careless or carefree. I could probably explain it more distinctly, but even instinctually, it just doesn't make sense. I think there's a powerful responsibility to help everyone. I want to help everyone because I really want to live in a world where no one has to suffer. These days I still practice meditation. It seems like because of the insights I've had and now the learning that I've done, one of the easiest ways for me to support and help other people is by sharing and communicating and teaching or talking about meditation. but also other ideas about love and compassion. I think about these ideas a lot, and I'm really connected immensely to how much gratitude I have for being here and the amount of freedom I feel in my life. And it's so obvious to me the capability or the potential we have of realizing wonderful ways of being in our life. And I feel so connected to that. I just want to share that with people, and I want other people to realize or have those same experiences of being deeply in love with being here on earth, and making the world a better place for other people. And the obvious way for me to do that is through sharing the meditation, like I just said. Amongst other ways, everyone has their own avenues where I think they're best enabled to make change in the world. Some people are doing other forms of service which are just as necessary for us. I guess in my model or in my idea of the best kind of world we can live in is one where everyone uses what they know to help take us forward to that brighter future or that better tomorrow, to recognize more wonderful ways of being now. So since that day, I've had to do a lot of orientation, had to learn a lot of different things and practice a lot of different ways to feel more grounded in these sorts of insights. And one of the overt confusions for me about all this content is I think the other way people speak about it, or in my experience, the ways that I've discovered this stuff, it was way harder than it needs to be. All of these shifts or subtleties or experiential insights, I think it can all break down into plain English, where one person can be in front of us or be in front of each other, communicate clearly with words. And if something doesn't get across that bridge, then we can use more words to communicate that and find or meet to make sure we're getting the essential points. In meditation, it's sometimes taught with this ambiguity. There's these real ideas of master and disciple, where the master gets to say to the disciple, you're not looking, or you need more time at looking, or go away and practice. I think that is just, it could be relevant, but I think the way that it's expressed is a poor form of teaching. I think we can communicate in a way that the disciple, the person learning, can always be clear about where they stand into what they're trying to recognize. I think as an example, a better communication of, any of those vague instructions that I was giving just then as the example, it'd be like a teacher should say something like, oh, this will be easier to relate to if you have a few more experiences in these particular places. So maybe if you can go away and practice this, it will be easier for us to have this conversation because I'm relating to something or speaking about something more experientially. Then it seems like you might have a relationship to at this point. Even that would be a very pretentious way of getting that teaching across. But I hope you can sense that I think there's just a lot of, I think the progress can be more effortless. I don't think there's any magical qualities out there in between insight and non-insight. I think it's actually quite specific and quite direct. I think we can all get there, especially if what I'm claiming is true, that these insights can really be profound in transforming our lives for the better. For me, the clearest place I found instruction was amongst Tibetan Buddhist teachings. And that's where most of my focus has been, because once I, orientated myself and studied that information more, I felt like there was abundant resources which were specific in moving my spiritual practice or my meditation and mindfulness forward quite directly, more so than I personally happen to find in other schoolings or systems on the same subject matter. I know for other people that's completely different because, as you might be able to tell, I think I work best with communication of language here and being specific. Other people, it's easier to do it through sensing, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I've learned some of that stuff too, but I think the easiest way to do this, that we're used to, is just through plain communication like this form right now. That's really a little bit about me and my relationship to the stuff I'm saying here. What I'm getting out of it is that I just feel like this is what I need to do. I find it hard to live with myself, honestly, if I'm not, converting my time into trying to do the most I can. I feel like I've got that energy and that's what I need to do. Because that, yeah, I guess I got a strong relationship to suffering, and I just feel that motivation, and I feel it as a necessity. And I think I'm poised in a position where this is the sort of thing I might be able to help people with. But I am just, living in the world. I spend a lot of my time practicing and learning about these things. I don't know everything, that's for sure. And I don't have all the answers, but I just am trying to move forward. This is I'll show you just a little bit. This is this setup here. So that's behind the smoke and mirrors, and this is, I live in a pretty regular house here. I'll just show you out my window where I am. So by all means, I'm just living the world and hoping that I can offer something, and that's always up to you to decide. So thank you for watching, and if I can be of service in any way, just let me know. Best wishes on your journey too.